Today we're going to be taking a look at a chess game which I played against a 2200 rated player and fellow YouTuber called Mr. Mijalkovic. I will leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description. The plan is that I will give you my own thoughts and analysis for the first half of the video, followed by a joint analysis that we did together directly after. So do stick around to hear us comparing thoughts and opinions at the end. Without further ado, let's get straight into my analysis. He starts with the move pawn to d4. All I know really about him is that he is a London system player. I respond with pawn to d5, and of course we see the London system. Now, I'm not really a full-fledged pawn to d5 player just yet, but what I do know is that pawn to c5 is a good way to approach the London system. He plays the move pawn to e3, defending the d4 pawn, and I play the move knight to f6. The idea is that if they take the pawn, I can just develop my knight, and I want to try and play e5 and then recollect the pawn, and other than that, knight to f6 is just a nice developing move. He goes for the move c3, I play e6. Now my bishop is protecting the pawn here, so if you were to capture, I will simply recapture with the bishop and get some development done at the same time. Plays knight to d2, this is one of the main moves. I go bishop to d6, offering an exchange of bishops, drops the bishop back, and I just castle. So not too much to say here yet, all pretty normal development. Goes knight to f3, play queen c7, I play queen c7, lining up the bishop and queen with his bishop. One of the main moves I know here is pawn takes on c5, in which case we will exchange the bishops, he will recapture, and I play queen takes on c5, and black is generally doing okay. We'll try and break with the e5 pawn, unleash our bad light squared bishop, and it should be doing fine. So he played bishop d3, decided not to go for this line with captures, and I go knight d7. Now if you capture, I can meet it with a knight capturing on c5, which will attack the bishop in the center, and my other knight can also jump into the position. He decides to castle, I exchange the bishops and play pawn to e5. This is still some kind of theory. There's quite a few games in the database. Unfortunately, seeing as it's the London, it is just dead equal, as everything so often is. But after this mass exchange here in the center, our queen will just drop back to e7 nicely, and we should be able to try and develop our pieces and get a decent position, having liberated the light squared bishop. So we see it captures, everything gets munched on, queen drops back to e7, and here I think that black is doing pretty well. But then he hits me with this move pawn to c4, and I think c4 was definitely the critical move to go for. If you don't go for c4, then you kind of just get locked up in a bit of a passive position after I play something like bishop to e6, or maybe I go b6 and bishop to b7. So he plays c4, I capture on c4, bishop captures on c4, and I go for bishop to e6. I actually think now that b6 and bishop to b7 might have been a slightly better approach, but bishop to e6 is still okay as well. He goes queen c2, and I play the move rook to c8. Queen c2, of course, just defending the bishop here. Point of rook to c8 is that this pawn is now being defended, so that after the bishop takes my bishop, I can take with the queen, and this pawn is protected by my rook. Whereas previously, if I were to say make a bit of a lazy move and play the move rook to d8, he could take my bishop here, and I would have to take with the pawn, which is not a concession that you want to make. So I just develop the rook, he brings his rook out, I play a6, which looking back on it, I think was a mistake. Probably should have played something like b6, just cementing this pawn here, and then possibly I can exchange off some of the rooks. But I go for a6, and after he pushes his a pawn, I play h6, preventing the knight from jumping in the future. There was one line potentially where if his bishop takes my bishop and my queen were to capture, there could be knight to g5 in the future with the queen and the knight attacking h7. In this particular situation, my knight is defending this pawn. However, playing h6 means that now my knight is free from defending the h7 square, because their knight cannot jump into g5, and now it can do whatever it wants and try to reposition to a slightly better square. So after h6, he goes a5, just another improving move, looking to lock down on the b6 square. Now my rook cannot infiltrate into the b file like I wanted, and I play the move rook to d8. So he plays knight to h4. The idea is that you want to go knight to f5, and the computer actually gives this a mistake for a pretty weird reason. After the bishop is captured and the queen recaptures, Engine says that I have an advantage after the rooks are traded, and if I were to bring my other rook and offer an exchange, I had rejected this because I thought that it dropped a pawn, but there's actually this crazy line with queen to d1, king to h2, knight checks, takes on f2, and then queen to h1 checkmate. So I didn't see that one, and instead decided just to go for knight to e4. And my ideas revolved around stuff like rook to d2 and trying to invade with the rooks. I didn't want to play rook d2 necessarily right away, but I just thought this knight was quite a strong piece on e4. It can't be kicked out, and it's always pressuring this kind of soft f2 pawn here. But of course it was a mistake. The engine finds this very accurate way to try and get black an advantage. Anyway, after queen to c2, I drop back with knight to d6, and we both agree that knight d6 wasn't the best move. It was actually a pretty big mistake, allowing him to invade down the center of the board with his two rooks. The move that I was considering other than knight d6 was this move pawn to c4, which I thought was quite an interesting try. And the idea is that after this rook is captured, and he were to take on c4 with the queen, I would play the move rook to d2, which now attacks this pawn and that pawn. And if you play the move rook to f1, I will just take on b2, try and get back to the b5 square. And yeah, the engine says that black is doing slightly better, but no big advantage. And as well as that, after pawn to c4, it's giving this move knight to f5, which after queen goes to e6, you can go knight to d4. And from here, black doesn't really have a whole lot. The queen just has to drop back. And if you don't play knight to f5, then my knight will jump around, and maybe black's doing all right again, but of course white can just go back and forth and make a draw. So this was all pretty annoying. Everything just looked like it was equal. And in particular, this knight to f5 move was annoying me. So I wanted to play the move knight d6, and then try and go for c4 and knight to b5, followed by something like c3. But this plan, I think, was pretty slow. It doesn't address white's knight on the king side, and all in all, I think knight d6 was just not a great move. It also gives up the d-file and gives white time to start improving their rooks, which is exactly what he went for, rook d5. I think we both agree that this was a good move, and the only way for black to keep comfortably in the game is by just returning with the knight. After something like white stacking up, there would be a trade here, followed by something like queen to e6. The rook would just have to drop back, and we can play for, say, c4, knight to d6 now, that there is no pin, and once again we have a fairly equal position. So I was really struggling to find any way to make progress, and in this position I played a terrible move, queen to e4. This is a huge blunder. I'd only really looked at the move queen to b3, queen d1, and queen takes queen. I don't know why the move queen to d2 slipped my mind. After queen takes queen, knight takes, black will definitely be better. I was looking at this line with queen takes queen, knight takes, they bring the rook over, I would take their rook, and after takes, I have the move pawn to c4, knight to c5, after rook d7, there's knight to c5, and the rook will be forced off the e-file, followed by my knight jumping in and attacking this pawn. This would be a completely winning position for black. So I looked at that line. I also looked at how after queen to b3, I also looked at how after queen to b3, there is knight to c4, disconnecting the queen from the rook. And after the exchange of rooks, my queen will defend on b7. And then when this is combined with all of the threats of infiltration, black would be doing much better. So I kind of just got enamored with these couple of possibilities, maybe a little bit of hope chess, but all of that led to this big blunder after I thought for a full 2 minutes on this move, which is just really bad time usage as well. He plays queen to d2, and I realize, oh no, I'm in a really bad spot now. I have to try and find a way to guard the knight, otherwise I'm just going down the full piece. But of course, after he plays the move rook to d1, I am just going down the full piece anyway. These three heavy pieces are just barreling down the d-file, and I have no knight to f7 or knight to b7, which would save the game. If my pawn was on f6, for example, so let's say that the pawn was on f6, I would have the move knight to f7, saving the game, as the knight would be able to guard my rook. But unfortunately for me, there is no such knight move. I play pawn to b5, wanting to go for knight to b7 in the future, hoping that the always en passant rule might kick in. Even this position would be pretty unpleasant, but he does not succumb to the en passant. I play pawn to b5, he just takes my knight, and then picks up the pawn as well. We play some more moves. I try and get my pawn running down the c-file, but it is no use. Blockades it very nicely with the knight here. I can't afford to exchange rooks, so I try and put my rook on c4 to play rook to b1, to play rook to b8 and rook to b2. But he collects the pawn very nicely, forces some rooks off the board. And while I do get a little bit of hope here after capturing this pawn that there might be a fortress, I did pretty quickly blunder with this move king to g7. As soon as I let go of the piece, I was like, oh dear, we fell for the classic knight to e6. My rook would have probably been better on e5. I don't actually know if this is maybe holdable. It'll be very tough. Probably white will end up breaking through with the g pawn at some point, and then end up pushing the e pawn, outpost the knight on f6 or something, and then try and go for a checkmate. I think that probably looks like the easiest way for white to win, so I have no doubt that white is definitely still winning in this position, although they would have had to work for it much, much harder than if I just played king to g7. Let's take a look at the post-game analysis with Mr. Mijałkiewicz himself.
Hello.
Hey, good game.
Yeah, GG. That was a bit rough. It all
Yeah.
just like mostly one blunder, right? Like
Yeah. I mean, I thought knight d6 was the bad move there, allowing rook d5, but I don't know.
yeah. I mean, my initial move I was gonna play was knight b5 on that, but I don't think that was too good either.
Yeah,
This whole plan wasn't super impressive.
Mhm.
The thing is, it's pretty hard to find what you're meant to do.
Yeah, that's
Um,
I couldn't figure out a plan for the life of me. I was trying to figure out what was I trying to figure out? I was trying to see like whether I could like get my knight out of the edge of the corner and like if my queen was like good on c4 or not, but I thought that like I don't know, I thought my queen ended up being badly placed on c4 at some point with knight e4. I thought that my position was actually in shambles after queen c2. I thought I had like made a terrible mistake somewhere, and you know, but
yeah. I think initially I was going to play I was considering playing the pawn to c4 as well. I
mm-hmm,
think like if you look move 22, I was
mm-hmm,
looking at pawn c4, rook takes, queen takes, and rook d2, and I
right.
wasn't sure what to make of this either.
Sorry, takes queen takes and rook d2.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, that honestly, that probably would have been like the best way for you to make counterplay here. But I mean, after rook f1, you at least win b2 and you have like a 2-on-1. But I don't know. I feel like the position is kind of balanced here. Um, I let's go back. Let's go back to the opening. There was a line here that I missed after on move 8. Do you play this opening often? This is like a queen c2 without a queen c7 without a knight c6.
I I've played it a couple of times. I know
Right.
that white's meant to take on c5. That's the only thing I know basically. Um,
Mm-hmm. I
and then after you exchange bishops, I then take on c5, and yeah, I mean, like the downside is that eventually black's gonna try and play for e5, but then in
right.
that time you also play for e4. So
I don't know. There's a line here that I was really considering. I don't know if it works or not. It's in my notes somewhere. There's this line rook c1, which is a little bit of fun. Oh, it is here. It is here. Okay. I'm putting the moves on the board while
right,
evaluating,
yeah.
but rook c1 actually works here, which is a very interesting line. Have you seen this? The idea I played this in a tournament once. The idea is to play c4 and b4 and just exploit that the queen is just kind of undefended here. Um, I don't know. Maybe I should have played
Um,
that, but on
I
move
wait,
8
that
instead of
doesn't. So rook c1 goes, and then if I go for say e5,
Right, right. After like e5, on move 8, like after queen
Yeah.
c7, rook c1, like e5. I mean, isn't that just a fork? Like what? Like
What do
de?
you mean? So wait, there's queen c7, bishop d6. Oh, the knight's also on d7. You
Uh,
Oh, and you saying instead of bishop d3, you go
yeah.
for rook
Instead of
c1.
bishop d3, we play rook c1. Right.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Like this is a very very interesting line. There's
right, yeah.
I don't know, but maybe I should have played. Let's get out of like theory. Um.
Yeah, I've not seen that one before, no.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't play d5 very much.
Oh.
I mostly play the King's Indian, so
Yeah. That's I don't know. I've never played the King's Indian before. I like to think it's a bad opening, but
no,
um
it's not bad.
okay. Did you ever like think that you were like better here, like after c4? Because you spent like a lot of time, and I was kind of worried about I don't even remember what I was worried about. I thought my position was actually doing kind of fine here. Like, what did you?
Yeah, I
What,
was I was deciding between bishop to e6 and taking on c4,
yeah,
and I wasn't sure which was better. I assumed that black would have like a small advantage because we've got the 3-on-2 and your 4-on-3 will never move.
right,
But I was having a hard time actually being able to get it mobilized because as you played, like a6 always met with a4,
right.
and maybe I should have gone for like b6, a6, and then b5,
I
but that seemed really
Yeah, that
slow.
seems. I feel like I have enough time to do like whatever I want, right?
Yeah,
After c4, I was kind of I was kind of considering just like sacking the pawn. I mean, it's probably not good or not, like bishop g4 or something. After cd, I don't know. You just try to like pressure me on like the d file and like c file with like rook fd8 or something.
oh, you were thinking I should play b5?
No. Instead of DC, maybe like bishop g4 and just like actually just attacking me. I mean, I'm looking at the engine, but it's bad. But I thought this might
Yeah,
be an issue, right? Because you can't take so bishop h7.
if knight takes bishop h7, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. That was kind of stupid. Maybe that's just a dumb line, but yeah, DC, right? Bishop c, bishop e6. I mean, queen c2 seemed like the best move to me.
Yeah.
Rook c8. I was really confused about this. Like, why rook c8?
I played rook c8 because I thought on bishop. Well, I didn't want bishop e6. I wanted to be able to take my queen
Right.
after bishop e6 because if I don't defend this pawn somehow, then I'll have to take with the e pawn with f pawn.
Yeah, but why not like b6 or something, or like I don't know, like b6 looks pretty natural to me, just defending the pawn. Like you get that,
Yeah,
but I guess
this
your
is
idea was
sort
the
of what
a6 b5, right?
exactly. So I thought it was a waste, but then again, b6, a6, and then b5 is probably a better approach anyway.
Yeah. I don't know. I just thought rook c8 was really passive. I thought it was just a bad move, right? Because your pawn's never going forward. Well, I mean it might be going forward, but like after the trade, my queen just sits on c4 permanently, and I didn't think that there was any play with it. So I
Yeah,
thought I
well,
thought your rook might be better placed even on a8. I don't know.
maybe that's sort of where the whole knight e4, knight d6 thing started
Right.
happening. Is that my idea is that I wanted my rook behind the pawn, and then I wanted to exchange, eventually force your queen back, and then play for c4.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. Rook c8, rook fd1, a6, a4, h6. What was the idea of h6? Was it just to like an improving move?
Yeah, I basically here was where I was like I don't really have a plan because I initially wanted rook c6 to go rook b6, but of course you just play a5 after rook c6 and then it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a cool
so
idea.
I played h6 because there were some positions where you can go bishop e6 queen e6 and then knight g5 to attack the queen and also a checkmate, and
Right.
so it frees up my knight a little bit, is what I was thinking.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good idea. I also didn't really have a plan here, so I was just trying to make improving moves. So I thought a5 was just improving, and rook fd8, knight h4. Knight h4 is a bad move. Okay, that's interesting. Why is it so bad? Oh, you played correctly. Bishop c4, queen c4, and my position is actually really bad here.
So it's trading rooks and then
Right.
trading the other rooks. What is this?
I
So
was looking at this. I can't take, right? Because after here, sorry, you can't see my position. After rook takes queen c4, you have queen d1, king h2, knight g4, and king h3, knight f1, king h2, and queen h1 mate, which I thought was really
wait, which move number are you looking at?
after like queen c4, move 21.
Yeah.
Rook d1, rook d1, rook d8, and I can't play rook d8, right? Because after rook takes d8, queen takes d8, it looks like I'm winning a pawn, right? It looks like queen c5 just wins a pawn, and after like
Yeah,
queen
then
d1, there's
knight.
nothing. But then yeah, queen d1, and this whole
Right.
line. I mean, I thought that was, I thought that was like a decent position for me, but
Oh yeah.
yeah, that was very scary. But knight e4 is also interesting, right? The idea was like rook d2 or something. What was the?
Yeah,
was
it
the
was
plan?
it was knight e4, and I was considering rook d2,
Mm-hmm.
and as after queen c2, like I was saying, I think the only other thing that I probably should have gone for is pawn c4.
Right.
Um,
Yeah. I hated my position after queen c2. I was so angry at myself for like allowing you to get me to play this concession. I was just gonna lose the game now. But
I was still kind of annoyed because I didn't see like a clear way to break through,
yeah.
and even if like
Mm-hmm.
if worst comes to worst, it will just be this 4-on-3. So like if I end up losing all the pawns,
Right.
um,
I mean, it's probably a. Oh, well, if you if you lose all the pawns, but I mean, a king and pawn in game is probably a draw. Even I think black is probably pushing a king and pawn, right? Since no, actually no, because my a5 pawn is really good. But
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's probably a draw in like king and pawn, and I just hated myself after queen c2. I just okay, now I'm losing. I've had to go back out of the position. It's game over. Now I'm going to lose to the 2400. The content is coming, and we can we can give up. But I don't know. Knight d6 I thought was a really bad move, allowing knight rook d5.
Yeah, I wasn't too happy after
Yeah, I
rook
thought
d5. I
maybe you had
To
to
be
like
honest,
bail out. What's that?
yeah, I should have just gone back, but I didn't want to admit it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then after queen e4, I completely blanked queen d2. I don't know. I I was only I think I looked at like the queen trade and then queen b3, and for some reason didn't look at queen d2.
Oh, the
I
queen trade is winning for you, right? Like I thought that like if I trade, it's game over.
Yeah, I'd say so as well.
Yeah.
Like yeah, because after this, I was like, if you bring your rook, there's takes,
Mm-hmm.
and then c4, and my knight comes to c5 and goes to a4,
Yeah, it's
and your
just
b2 pawn will drop.
and my a4 pawn is also my a5 pawn is also very
Yeah,
weak,
exactly.
right? I thought I was like even positionally lost here. But I mean queen d2 and I don't really see a defense for black, right? Rook d1.
No, there just isn't one. It's pretty
Yeah.
it's pretty sad.
Yeah, like rook c6 there was knight f4 f5 and it's game
Yeah,
over.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, it was a tough game, and then and then the end game I was really scared. I was, oh no, did I blunder a draw after all
I
the
thought
way
it was
here?
maybe close, but then I blundered rook. So
Yeah,
I wasn't sure if it was a fortress actually. Yeah.
After I lost my F pawn, I was kind of freaking out. Cause I thought I didn't calculate that I was playing, so I didn't see that after the F pawn the rook would defend your F pawn, and I was
Yeah.
I was terrified. I was genuinely very, very scared. But yeah, either way though, I mean, it was a good game. It was a good game.
Yeah.
Not like the content that I wanted. I kind of wanted to lose this game, but you know. Uh, either
No,
way.
it's fine. It's a good good prospect for your road to 2400.
But thank you. Yeah, are you going for like NM or FM, or what are you going for?
I'm sort of looking to get any title, but it's pretty hard to find tournaments, to be
Oh.
honest. Like, yeah, because I'm in the UK, so
Right,
like, we don't
right.
get many FIDE rated events. It's mostly ECF. You've probably got the same thing with USCF, I imagine.
Yeah, I've played in one
Um,
FIDE tournament ever, so
Yeah, exactly. So
um,
it's a bit of a pain.
yeah, I understand. But yeah, that was fun. I wish you luck in getting titles, getting like 25, 2600, even higher. Yeah, make sure to go check out
Yeah,
his
thanks.
channel after this. He has some very, very good content. He's very, very instructive in his videos. Um,
Who
and
did you say, sorry?
what?
Well,
Sorry.
who did you say? You said you were going to.
No, I was just saying that you have very good videos.
Oh, my channel. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I thought you were saying you had like you were going to watch. I don't know. I
No,
thought you were going to say
no.
like you were going to watch Daniel Nardiski or something.
No. Go watch Daniel Naroditsky, not him. He has terrible videos.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
There might be something to that, to be honest.
Yeah. But you know, now's the time where you shout out my channel, just so you know.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
of course. Sorry. Yeah. Also, yeah. Check out Mr. Mialkovic. He is going for 2400. Pretty interesting stuff. I've seen a couple of his videos. Does some nice over the board game analysis as well. So definitely, if you are a aspiring club player, someone you want to watch out for.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's it, I guess. That's all we got for you today.
Yeah.
Good evening and good night.